University. Which one?
Oh, it's a mustard.
Shit.
Okay.
Boom.
Okay, can I have everybody's attention, please? We have with us a very sexy man.
Where?
Oh, he's in the right. No. Nick Goodall, the Bard of Broadstairs, fabulous poet. He's come to our open mic many times, and let's just say he shines rather brightly, full of charisma. He's told me to say, and the wonderful Jaime Grier as well, who's going to come up and do some stuff. There you go, Nick. It's all yours, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Round of applause for Nick, please.
Well, I feel like I'm in a very small gathering of friends. So, and it's lovely to see you here. It's a lovely afternoon. The sun is shining. So I'm surprised you're not on the beach or at Pride, which apparently is happening today. I don't know what that means about the intersection of pride and poetry and the seaside, but well, we can workshop that later on in small groups. My name is Nick Goodall. I'm a foreigner. I come from Broadstairs, so I know. I think I might be here on some kind of council exchange scheme.
Okay, yeah.
You get me and Broadstairs gets a bag of chips or something. As John said, I really like this place. This has a nice vibe about it. It's eclectic, it's warm, obviously not temperature. I have a cracking video of reading poetry here where you can see the words leave my mouth and the condensation as the warm air inside me hits the chill outside, and my parka gets dripping wet with the thoughts I have. But today's quite different, and what I'd like to do is just have a wander really through some of the poems I've performed here and some I haven't, and just see if you enjoy it. So if you've got any requests, like for things you want to hear about, I may have written a poem about it, unless of course that request is just no more, thanks. But we'll know what that's like when you get to it. And I must say, this is remarkable compared to the most recent gig I did, which was in Ramsgate, which was a salon of seduction. And all you need to know is at the end of it, yes, she had drawn blood on his buttocks, and Lord knows how he got back home.
He was sitting down.
Yeah.
We were there, weren't we?
And we're gonna reproduce that here today.
Volunteers, you know.
Yeah, you mate, I know.
Way up there.
Start off with a nice gentle one. And these are all picked at random. This isn't one of those, every word counts. Well, every word does count, but not necessarily in this order. Anybody here a fan of Pam Ayres?
Cool.
Yes.
Right. Well, I'm a big fan of Pam Ayres, and there are two types of poets in the world. Those who concede with varying degrees of honesty that they like Pam Ayres, and those who go, no, hate her completely. Well, I'm definitely in the former camp, and I went to see her in something like Guildford or somewhere. Anyway, it was a long way, and I wrote a poem about it. This is called Ayres Rock. Through chilly drizzle midweek night, the patient came like me, for steaks at Coat, free parking and a little poetry. Tottered in the white tops, in beanies, perms, the bald. I think I saw a brown syrup, what Cockney wigs are called. They'd come to hear a superstar, who softly reassured her fans for years from near and far from modern world inured. And at a desk, books piled on piles, her sacred words laid out, each signed with friendly loopy smiles, a guaranteed sellout. Teeth, her husband, platypus, the favourites ticked off done. She even rapped about a fox, they seemed to like that one. Moving slowly with the times as right left for the night, could they believe that midst her rhymes, the blessed Pam said shite? She did. Very kind of you. And when you live by the sea, you're kind of legally obliged to write poems about the sea, and wistfully looking out and wondering what's going on. And this is a true story.
Different colours of their colours.
It's called Bench,
I didn't mix it.
and it's about those benches you find along the cliff tops. Shall we sit on the bench without flowers, lest we catch what it says they died of? Shall we look at the same seagull skyline and flick V's at the drones we're above? Shall we talk like there's something to aim for, as if anything matters at all, when we know we've already decided and our crests are beginning to fall? Shall we look like we're innocent parties to the action right here on this seat? And the flowers for the dearly departed are the closest to love we will meet. Not everything is deep and profound. Some things are whimsy. You just have a thought and you think, well, does whimsy count? Yeah, if you drop a hint of there being something meaningful in it. Some poets use their poetry as a way of sharing their pain, living their truth, emoting about something very personal. Mine are never like that. I'm much more likely to go for a gag. However, this one I think is somewhere between the two. This is called Collared. Let me put this simply. I want a girlfriend. Or a boyfriend. I'll even make do with a dog. But under no circumstances a Labra bastard doodle go a sin against God, I mean dog. The best bit about moments like that is the eye contact you make with some people who are somewhere between bewildered and terrified.
Yeah. Horrified.
It's all fiction. It's all fiction. Welcome friends. We'll all be saying a little piece about ourselves in a minute and then we get naked.
Oh, I'll watch them.
In that order.
I'm not going down the front now.
Well, there's a line to treasure. You're fine. There's no audience participation in this, which doesn't extend to applause. That's always welcome. Actually, on the applause thing, poetry events are very odd, especially if they have short poems like mine, because, you know, if you go and see a band, you know, you applaud after each song, you get a 3, 4, 5 minute break. Not with a poem, you're lucky if you get a minute with me. So the way I look at it is, it's always nice to hear it. If nothing else, it proves to me you're still alive. But don't feel obliged. If you do like it, make all the noise you want. Because you know what? You've got to take each day as it comes, right? Every day, some folks say, is a gift. But we know some of them are just meh. Can't re-gift them, get refunded even credit, or pretend that they were on your list. Better low expectations of pleasure, less disappointment, upset and pain. When the cherries once promised turned out to be lemons. Shit, now it started to rain. I do not want to die an old man's death, I want to die alive. The only fear I want to feel is the one on the thrill of the ride. Let me die before I fail, even if I don't succeed. Allow me grace and freedom from unpleasantness and need. Do not think of me when I stop, I'm gone and won't come back. There's nothing left and no one here. Once I'm dead, that's the fact. Do it now while I'm alive. Hate me, love me, cry. Kiss my hand, spit in my eye. Fight me, sing to me, tell me your lies. You cannot do that when I've died, so do whatever now. There are no returns or refunds made. Don't say you didn't try. True story. I have a friend.
That's not true.
Just the one.
Just the one, yeah, issued to me by the council. I have a friend with whom I go walking, and that's what we do. Once a week we go for a long walk, and then occasionally I go back and have a cup of tea. That's what you do. And so I went back to Deb's house the other day. Deb's is a married woman, so I made this quite clear. And she had a stack of jigsaw puzzles on the table. I said, oh, things you learn about your friends. She goes, yeah, and we like threesomes as well. Now, I don't know what the etiquette really is for that kind of confession, but it turned out that she meant jigsaw puzzle threesomes, right? But I went with that, and I thought there's a poem in this. And with her permission, Deb's off 5 Dane Road. No, sorry. It's called Each to Their Own. My friend enjoys jigsaws and threesomes. Combines them, I'm puzzled to say. Sometimes she starts off in a corner, and when bits are pressed in, hopes they'll stay. Both games have their own special tables. Likes both hard, for a while at least. She begins with her favourite, edging, and a sky when her friend Sky's a beast. Doesn't help when the pieces are half cut, like the couple she met in the pub. Can I find what I need, she will wonder. Is there any point? There's the rub. Won't be judged by the jealous or pervy, or the haters who don't get her thing. But in threesomes, like bad paintings of Big Ben, there is often a piece that's missing. If that's my agent, I do require a conversation. It's probably just somebody who wants to be famous. Because I read something recently about how they'd interviewed kids at school and asked them what they wanted to be when they grew up. And whereas once upon a time they'd have wanted to be train drivers or sports people or whatever, now they just want to be famous.
Yeah.
It's the curse of modern life. But fame seems to be the goal.
We just said chips.
So this is called 5 Minutes, and it's about that subject. It's obvious to him and me, it's famous that you want to be, no great shakes artistically, just pointed at by strangers. Of talent, merit, worthy life, your virtue is not born of strife, just piggybacked your current wife, a stolen dog in manger. And in the end you'll get your day, and passers-by will point and, hey, he used to be someone, they'll say, but remembered, there's no danger. Small, outside chance. Anybody here from the Midlands? Oh, good. I do my bad Brummie accent, man. All right. Lovely, sir. You thanks a lot. There's a real vote of confidence. There you go. 16. I'll get a bonus for that. It's all right.
Should have had Richard here.
Nice of you to pop in. Right. This is a poem called "People Who Leave Halfway Through a Show Are Bastards," and I know where they live. I'm only kidding. I haven't yet written that one.
Oh, you know.
But she did blow a bit of coffee foam out of her nostril, so it was all worth it.
That was aiming your way.
Oh, you have such a way with words.
Arriving by coach from the Midlands,
No.
they're excited, no, nervous, well anxious, and the glue that locks up their hands is the hope she's a little less thankless. They will tell her of their lovely journey, except for that man who was sick, and ask if they have real chips here, do they cut them right proper and thick. Leatherette case they bought online, Cooper's catalogue fell from the mail, now it's used twice a year if they're lucky, and the stitching's beginning to fail. This time it's to their oldest daughter, not inclined though to see them at all. She's something high up in that crypto, which explains why she never quite calls. They've no chance but to come to the city. It's not friendly or happy or green, but there's somebody famous from TV in a show which they'll boast that they've seen. On the journey back home to the quiet, the pains in her voice, hush dear, don't. There's our son, he's another high flyer. I'm sure he'd like a visit. He won't. Do you remember being at school and being discouraged from doing something you really like doing? It might have been painting or singing or playing a particular game. There was always something that you're told by a teacher, usually, who I'll bet you cash money was single, just dissuaded you from doing. And if you're really lucky later on in life, you get to go back and reconnect with that passion and that pastime. So if that rings any bells with you, you might get this one. I am not a painter. A real painter said I ain't. My technique is not so refined, yet all the same I paint. I'm not a writer. A real writer told me that. But I put down so many words they come to me like chat. I am not a dancer. A real dancer mocked my pose. But I move to the rhythm though and feel it in my toes. I am not an artist. A real artist makes real art. It's not for me to self-label and put horse before the cart. I am not a poet. A poet told me, though. I do not have a self-published book coming out and my poems rhyme. I am, though, quite contented, because I do not give a jot. I scribble like a man demented, and that, my friends, you're lot. Now, there's many different ways, many different types of poetry. Lots of styles, lots of approaches, and lots of content. And so it's a little bit like music in a way. You wouldn't go and say, oh, I'm going to go and see a musician tonight. You'd come over as slightly odd. But you might go and say, I'm going to see a particular style or a genre. And it's the same with poetry. And I asked Jaime Grier to come along today, because Jamie's poems are very different to mine. They're longer form, they're more contemplative, and generally speaking, poets don't like other poets. It's just the way it goes, but I have a lot of time for this. So I'm going to read you a couple more of these whimsies, and then I'm going to ask Jaime to read you some of her poems, because she's special. Just no two ways around it, and you are the lucky people being here and basically getting through this trial by poetry from me. I was a rich woman's plaything. At the click of her fingers, I'd come.
He's a joke.
Is that it?
You write your own? No, actually, I'm not. There you go. There you go, yeah. Actually, you know what? I think I may actually do that in future. It's a lot quicker. I'll do that one again. I was a rich woman's plaything. At the click of her fingers, I'd come. When she wanted to get my attention, she'd maneuver me under her thumb. I was willing to join in the action and would dance for amusement and mood, and if given a decent incentive, would trade for excitement, quite rude. With a kiss is how she dismissed me, or perhaps more precisely a peck, with the prospect of something vague later when I'd healed up the holes in my neck. That the root of our trouble was money, that she had it and I never would. Though I had something else that she wanted, more than wealth is what I understood. Come! No, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. We're all here in the chapel of love. And anybody remember the 70s? That's the decade, not the age. No.
Jane's old enough.
Can you believe there was a time when Kiki Dee wore dungarees and Elton John had hair? You couldn't if you tried. So don't misunderstand me. We'll have the hottest ever summer dream. Save your kisses for me and God save the Queen. We were at war with Iceland. Body Shop opened its doors. I wasn't there when Sid James died, and I didn't buy a ticket on the first Concorde. Southend Pier burnt down, sure. Intercity 125. The National Theatre opened its doors, and I was still a year away from my very first shag. Anybody cycle? You don't really look like cyclists. Any passionate cyclists here? No.
Have you got any angry driver poem?
This is near enough. Angry driver.
Are you one
Have
of
I
them?
stumbled into a workshop? Or is you a day out in your diary? We're not cyclists, no? You look suspiciously like a cyclist, but you're not, are you? No. Yeah, twat. Yeah, no. Well, in which case, does anybody know any cyclists?
No.
Right, okay, just let's get back to the basics. This is about cyclists who wear lycra.
Oh,
Okay?
yeah.
Someone there? Yes.
You, mate. This is called Lunchbox. A peloton of cyclists, all bikes and extra chains and special pants with seats built in, filled up the high-speed train. They'd hurtled down from London, sharp stop before the sea, and now we're going home again with curry sauce for tea. Despite their cleats and studs and socks, that ride at times was hell. Now for relief, it's Bee Gees songs and gargling San Miguel. The bants were Chips and Strava, camaraderie of men. Eased into lycra, little caps, it's dress-up time again. started with Pam, I'll finish with Pam, except this is Pam with a difference. True story. What's that? All men are liars, and that's the truth. Anyway, so driving in Wiltshire one night with my friend Helen, when suddenly in front of the car, an animal, just like this, hurtled, well not just like this, obviously. An animal hurtled across the road, and Helen said to me, "Was that a stoat?" Now, I don't know whether you've ever seen a stoat, but to recognise one at speed, that's something remarkable. But my thought was obviously, what would Pam Ayres do at this point? So this is, by the magic of putting on a silly voice, either somewhere between Benny Hill doing Ernie, or me doing Pam Ayres, or quite possibly channeling the actual Pam Ayres, whose husband attempted to, this is also true, her husband threatened an injunction against me, I was going to appear one night as a Pam Ayres tribute act as Pam Dares, and he wrote, this is true, it's her husband's her agent, this is absolutely true, and he said, if it appears as Pam Ayres, it may damage her reputation. I thought, what, people think I'm passing myself off as Pam Ayres? That would be something. So this is called Stoat, and after this, I'll have a moment while Jaime gets her stuff together and takes you into the world of Jaime's poetry. Oh my word, I said out loud when I was driving home. Is that a stoat I saw ahead, standing in the road? I rather hope it wasn't, as I think I mowed it down. Might have been a fox, I suppose, not in this part of town. Can't be helped, I'll clean the tyres, there's not much else to do, as Mr. Stoat, or Mrs. Stoat, won't ever make the news. I expect that you are thinking now that this is not one of her wittiest poems. There's no obvious gag or punchline coming in. You think I'd best be going. I wasn't being sweet and rustic enough, coming over all cynical, blasé. There's more to life than my teeth and old man. But that stuff, well, it just doesn't pay. But here's to all the trivia that life is mostly made of. When you don't look out for the big stuff, like justice, peace, and kindness, or in my case, a stoat. Thanks ever so much. You know, like Dr. Dolittle, those of you who can't see that, this is a miracle. I mean, when the animals come to you, you feel like Dr. Dolittle, St. Francis of Assisi, or you obviously smell like the kind of thing a dog wants to sit his arse on. Because this little creature has come and sat at my feet, which is moving.
I won't worry about that, Nick, there's a massive leopard behind you.
Yeah, well, yes, obviously called Spot. Jaime, are you focused?
I am, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to give a big well for local girl, and to my mind, the single best poet. Just building up the pressure, Jaime, and waiting till you get your ass down there. The longer you take, the more words I'll have to make up. No, seriously, I think Jaime's poetry is marvellous. Jaime Grier, everybody.
Well, I thought that's quite novel.
You got a big enough room?
Yeah. I might sit, but then I thought, actually,
Jaime, why don't you...
the sitting height of the microphone is actually my standing height, so I may stand. I'm going to try sitting.
It's rock and roll, this lifestyle, I tell you, we have like trucks with technicians and...
Ooh. Wow, there we go.
You like that?
Pivoting. Yeah. Oh, this is good.
No, you're
I've
riveting, not pivoting.
never done a sitting gig before, so let's give it a go. That's a bit close.
Well, let's hear you.
Thanks very much for having me, and thanks Nick for that wonderful introduction.
Well, Nick, it's all right. No more than an hour,
So-
right, Jaime?
Yeah. So yeah, as Nick said, my poems are quite different to his. I think he's invited me along to bring the mood down a little bit. I try not to be too dark and depressing. So yeah, I think I'm going to start with one which is really sort of by way of introduction. It's kind of just all about me really and my dysfunction. It's called Changing Rooms. When I was little, I was fickle. If I wasn't flicking through a dictionary to find the next new word to use at the next opportunity, I was probably agreeing to play dolls with my sister and brother, and to their utter frustration, then changing my mind. I just liked making the Barbie worlds, the little rooms out of hardback books with cassette case tables. We'd spend ages setting it up, and when it was done, I'd lose interest, despite the effort invested. I'd get distracted by trying to read a book backwards, making up my own adverts or cutting pictures of my heartthrobs out of smash hits for my scrapbooks. As soon as it was time to play, suddenly playing the recorder or recording my own radio play seemed more attractive. I had an active mind, and they got upset with me. And I got upset all the time. I was a sensitive child with a pensive smile and a propensity for wild rages, finding criticism when it wasn't intended, my position almost always defensive. My poor siblings. Whenever I whipped into one of my whirlwinds, would sit there helpless, expressions fixed, like they were waiting, bracing for the next phase of this ferocious face-off between me and God knows what, and gracefully taking it, just waiting for it to fade, like they were in the eye of a storm they knew couldn't harm them, barely even alarmed them, because I was a passing thunder, and before long, all would be calm again. But when those black clouds found me, they really hung about me. And the only thing that seemed to keep me grounded was changing my room around, lugging bookcases into new places, walking wardrobes into alcoves, to and fro across the floor, mapping it all out from door to ceiling in my mind as I went. And the end result was this incredible, fresh start kind of feeling, a space I could heal in, each time convinced that this was the one, this was the best setup yet, and how could I ever feel sad again? Sometimes I'd change bedroom altogether, changing rooms with my mood every time that stormy weather front moved in. I had every one of those 7 bedrooms, some several times in the 25 years that I lived there. 25 years in total, that is. Because I came and went like I didn't know what moving out meant. Every move a fresh start till I'd boomerang back to the homestead. The car packed full of black sacks of crap I'd refused to part with, transporting me away from the source of my heartbreak and home again. Or like the time I moved to Margate, heart set on the art scene, but I just stayed in. I didn't know anyone, and I didn't really fit in. I'd leapfrog from one job to the next when it didn't live up to its description. A DBS check had me listing 8 postcodes I'd lived in. 8 in 5 years, that is. I have been setting up Barbie's house on repeat, a perpetual state of preparing to begin. A cassette-taped radio play that I have recorded over and over again, that's unravelled and been wound back in. Plans and ideas shift like furniture as life rearranges, and now I'm the one that feels the frustrations. Maybe I'm just fickle or impatient, or that whenever my mood moves somewhere new, everything else must move too. But the storms are tempered now. I talk them out, take measures, so the weather stays mild with only scattered showers. Maybe it's fear of failure, of disappointment when the playing out of an idea doesn't live up to what I wanted, because the hope contained in the creation of a thing is often far more appealing. And the plans I'd so carefully concocted become lost things, blown away on strong winds that bluster through my world, hardly ever stopping for long. Or maybe I'm just better at making things than I am at humaning, and maybe that's okay. I may never own my own place, but I have a room of my own, and yeah, I do change it around sometimes. And I try to clear away life's phases, like a waste paper basket of crumpled pages, because everything's in transit. I'm trying to grasp at or grip to a plan that won't stick. It's time wasted. I'm creative. I always have been. I embrace it, whatever direction I'm blown in. Thank you. I'm going to move this slightly because I feel it comes to the side on. Okay, so I've got a few poems about Herne Bay, having grown up in Herne Bay, or maybe not about Herne Bay, but kind of set in Herne Bay or with experiences from the town in them. So I'm gonna do one of those now, I think. It's strange sitting down, but Right, okay, this is called Postcards. A seaside town will always feel like home. Meandering in the morning to the sound of the gulls like tiny pterodactyls warning you a Tyrannosaurus wave is on its way. Or relishing relics of a once booming industry. Victorian hotels, weather-torn piers, clock towers that have counted down the years to a black and white postcard in a junk shop. I like to read the messages, like Jackie's from the 70s writing from Margate. Dear Mum and Dad, it seems you're going to get a card every day. My parents chose Herne Bay for a reason. Even at the height of season it was sleepy, sedate, close to the ocean to satiate their devotion to the waves, no motion sickness in our domestic bliss. Even when the hurricane of 87 hit, my birthday, I was 2. My earliest memory is climbing the stairs with Ju, candles in hands while our parents slept through, and Simon on the roof of the caravan where he'd been sleeping, wrestling with the top to stop the rain from leaking in. We lost half the roof to that storm. Like a childhood mishap, it was soon restored to safety. The only time I didn't live on the coast was the time I felt most suffocated. If I can't at least see an estuary, I feel, ironically, all at sea. Or beached, like the whale that washed up in Reculver. I remember the whole town walked there to gawp at this alien orca, and I just stood there, awkward, wishing the beast had some dignity as it left this earth, homeless and surrounded by strangers. So many good friends were made in these places. Polly and me, the years after Disney's Little Mermaid hit the screens. Our days were liquefied dreams, underwater scenes. We swam through the playground into the waves where we stayed all summer until thrown into adolescence. And then sailing lessons at the club, ducking from the swinging boom of adulthood until we capsized one last time. 2 little mermaids went swimming their separate ways. Those days have smooth edges like frosted glass, and I keep them in a heart-shaped jar. They save me. Like the dripping orange sun, a giant lozenge that soothes a hacking soul and sinks me into my rest place at the end of all my best days. Like the time we found that huge tractor inner tube. We bounced it over the downs and bobbed around in it for hours. A rubber ring robust enough to carry all of us. Like our parents' love. The other week, Dad and I were sat side by side looking out to the horizon like we have my entire lifetime, dredging memories and prizing them open. One day, he said, all this could be underwater. The planet's heating fast. These old towns are not going to last much longer. I won't be around, and you kids could all be crammed into high-rise buildings in the middle of the land if you're lucky enough to withstand rising levels. And as the conversation crashed onto its shore, I collected my jets and thoughts. One day, and that big wave has rolled on in, whether a body of water or just a sea of changes, whether sudden or slow, I hope I don't find myself homeless and surrounded by strangers, like the orca, like a fish out of water, floundering in a world that has forgotten how to breathe. But whatever goes down, we will still have our stories, our little pieces of sea glass collected and protected to try and craft something new. And though we may not have hometowns to send them to, and no will still be writing postcards. Thank you. So yeah, most of my poems are quite long and I have memorised them. However, recently I've been writing slightly shorter poems, a minute and a half kind of thing rather than 3 to 4 minutes. So they're quite new, so I haven't actually memorised them. So I'm going to try 1 or 2 of them, I think.
You only think.
Yeah, no, I will. I'm going to make the executive decision to do that. I do have to read it, which I'm not used to. I prefer to kind of memorise, but okay. So my dad is a boat builder. I've always grown up around boat, on boat yards, playing on boat yards, things like that. And this one I wrote the other day, having paid a visit to the boatyard and was kind of chilling at home. So it's called Graveyard of Dreams. We call it the Graveyard of Dreams, where half-finished projects and things given up on have gone to die. Static monuments of hope, still tillers, keeled over keels, masts that have mastered the art of standing still. Distant shrill of steel tapping steel, the loneliest sound. There's no other place with such profound dignity in going nowhere. Today, I am going nowhere. Sails torn in twisted indecision, at helm in overwhelm, port of unimportance, stuck willingly on the banks of muddied thought as it rests in a silty bed. Compass of compassion navigates head to a downward direction. I am a reflection in the rippled waves of my own magnitude today. I'm the sway of the riverbank weeds. The breeze that easily moves through the reeds of me leaves me my stillness. And it's still too early to disturb these dark waters I'm deep in. I'm sleeping in my graveyard of dreams. Please, don't stir me. Nick's nodding, you approve of that one. Thank you. Okay, I think I'm going to do one that is about a breakup. I recently had a breakup from and I quote myself, saying to Nick, an embarrassingly short relationship. Hi, Si. So I'm just going to try and find it. So it was a short relationship, but impactful enough to write a poem about. I've got a poem out of it. Put it that way.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So it's about so I work in mental health, and it's about kind of trying to function, doing a job, while also kind of grieving a relationship. It's called Between Meetings. Between meetings, Sarah, Jane and me exchange bad news like fag paraphernalia. It burst from us, an abscess on a pet hound or a pound spat back out the vending machine. Your lies are half-scuffed filter tips, my lips happy to hold the clean end and draw in. I exhale your context and shroud the plain facts in a nicotine smokescreen. Between meetings, my mind battle starts up. The silence has sirens, and other people are trauma vets that let up my own internal war. They sit down across the table and I pour out my empathy, still warm and steeping in its own history. But there is more of them, there is less of me. And you, one lump or two lodged into the back of my throat, are dissolved for a sweet hour. Between meetings, I stuff music into my quiet moments and sidestep and CCTV. Before my pain dance and scream for reception, there are no rules against it. I smoke up against the wall, shooting glances at the bobbies, flirting with the law. These tiny prison breaks from the way you've locked me into myself are as secretive as manipulation. I screenshot your poems so there's no way you'll know when there are parts of you I'm still reaching for. My preoccupation, in spite of everything pointing the other way, could be an accidental thumbs up. Between meetings, I can be found resenting an overpriced meal and the self that permits being stolen from. I consume slow and without mind so that the time will fill me up. I fill a fresh cup and suck at the foam, teasing tongue burn but never learn when it's too soon to sip. Your caffeine kick woke me from the brain fog of a long, lonely morning. I savour the saccharin of our limbo state, the aspartame in losing the weight of you. Between meetings, I find hiding places to retreat in, corners or closed eyes like do not disturb sign. I freeze and fawn in my overwhelm as I mourn you, and file the memories into folders from a chaotic desktop. Between meetings, I shed professional like a snakeskin that's been singed by the heat of a schedule that always made time for you. I curl up in the shade, exhausted and bare, and breathe myself in with the ease of good news being sent on a breath of fresh air. one more before. I think we're going to have a break, maybe.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do one more now. There'll be more.
Got prime position in the house side. Yeah, you good? You
Nice
got good
seats.
view?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Nice view.
Pressure.
Nice view.
Excited.
I like what I see.
Okay, so. Okay, I'm going to do one that's written about this young man here. It's just a little short one.
This one.
Is he?
This one here. Yeah. As he's here, and as he's like
What's
right at the
his
front,
name? What's his
number
name?
one fan. This
What's
is
his-
Simon.
Simon. Hello, Simon.
He's got a little short one apparently.
Yes, he has. Wait for
Oh,
it.
was he? Oh, right.
Yeah, poem.
Sorry, Phil.
Okay. If I can find it, that is. Sorry. Okay. So Simon and myself have an ongoing joke about our intelligence levels, or not our intelligence levels, but our education levels. So I went to the Langton Girls' School in Canterbury. So I went to Chaucer. So I'm cultured and educated, and he's just a lowly builder.
Is he?
So this one's called Historic Tour of Canterbury with Geoffrey Chaucer Boy. So it's written, I kind of came up with it when we were in the bookshop. Meet me at the graphic novels, my nostrils full of ground coffee, ground floor cafe cooling the small of my back to ache less with cake. And my friend came with me today to lift the spirits dried up by the dust of a settling lust. Just being around these bound bygones reminds me of versions behind me. The many cells stuffed on shelves in libraries of other needs. Their tombs, the tomes of the heart's homes vacated. The negated pages, the skim read and the well thumbed, and the archaic ache to become the loved and studied. To smile at my bibliophile who has found their perfect prose. Those ancient tales pale in the middle of today, with my ailing pal perusing the graphic novel section. I walk in his direction. A friend who is happy to see the many pictures of me in full colour, cover to cover. Thank you for listening.
Isn't she fantastic, eh?
Yeah.
Jaime Grier, everybody. And I'll ask her to do some more a little bit later on, so you get to do them all, Jaime. Do you remember, has everybody seen Oppenheimer?
Yes.
Really?
Still ready to go.
Well, you've got 3 hours of your life you'll never get back, right? 3 hours. When did films start taking 3 hours? I'm of the school of thought that says, like, plays and films are roughly an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, because your attention span goes, right? Absolutely. So this is going to be about an hour and 40 in total as well. And we're about 3/4 of an hour through now. So what I'm going to do is a few more poems, and then we're going to have a break, because you're really here to drink far too much coffee. And so that's your opportunity to rush the bar and order the coffee and get the cakes and sit back. And then we'll have a bit more of Jaime and a few more from me. Does anybody remember or even go to the Thanet Beer Festival? No. You're lucky. Well, that's part of the reason why. It's part of the cuts. It doesn't happen anymore. My theory is actually it was all a huge government experiment. They wanted to see what happened when you got 2,000 men of a certain age in a room and convinced them that if they drank 13 pints, they'd be more sexually attractive. Didn't seem to work. This is a poem I wrote based on. It worked for John. He says. He's knocking back another pint. He doesn't want an awful sight. He thinks that he will last the night he won't. That's what his friends are. Now his jokes are getting louder. Hopes his mates have got some powder. Really couldn't be more prouder as his bladder starts to blow. The room's now moving round him. 2 more pints follow down his chin. The lights inside him getting dim. He won't be going yet though. Oh, just one more, I'll get these all in, mate. No, go on, here's a score or anything but get some crisps. He drops his glass, falls on his arse, can't find his bus pass. I'm going home. Then in his chair, kebab in hair, he didn't pull, was just a dare, I didn't fancy her, no. At 3 a.m, like other men who think that when they're drunk they let the pain go, remembers shouts and knockabouts and guts in doubt, he hates to get this low, so he's reaching for another pint. Does anybody here write poetry? Yeah, I love a confession. You know, it's often said that more poetry is written than read, and I meet dozens of people who say, I'll write a little bit, but no, I never shout to anybody. Well, okay, great, more room for me. You know, it's dog eat dog. Actually, I've got one about dogs. No, well, no, I don't know. Should I do the one about dogs? Who knows? Who knows? There's so many. The two biggest risks when you're a poet. First one is that when people see you're a poet and they turn around and go inside, I'd rather sit in the traffic and take my chances and listen to poetry. The second biggest risk is women especially go, is that about me? And you know, it wasn't. You sure it wasn't about me? No, it wasn't about me. See, you're damned. It's either about them, in which case they like it, or it isn't about them. Why don't you write all about me? So, with that in mind, this is called Pork Pie Penny, and I wrote it about a woman I was seeing, and she dumped me. But after she'd asked me to change her name to Penny in the poem. So this is about Pauline. Let me rhyme you about Pork Pie Penny. She's a girl who likes her meat, but insists that these are her salad days and the pastry's just a treat. Some people think that she's quite mad. They say she's way past barking. They're right. She comes from Upminster. Her sense of humour, sparkling. It's not all go for Pork Pie Penny. Sometimes she's soporific. It doesn't matter, she'll wake up and return to being terrific. On Just 4 Coffees, Pork Pie Penny is everybody's tonic. It must be said that her laughs are snorts, which makes that pork pie quite ironic. There is a poetry establishment. It's a kind of glee club of people who want to out-beard stroke each other, and I've got no truck with them. For me, poetry has to be alive, it has to reach people who aren't poets who go, oh yeah, I quite like that, or oh, I got that line, or it resonates with me. Other than that, I just don't give a stuff. Having said that, there is something about proper structure. You may not realise it, but there's actually structure to all of these, and sometimes it's a good exercise just to try and fit an idea into a classical structure. I know, you can see the eyes glazing now. Get on with it. Tell us another knob gag. So, this is a classic Shakespearean sonnet. You know, it's people go, what's that then? So, well, it's lots of words in a row. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, rhyme with a heroic couplet at the end, and it's about love. I do love you. I do not have more words. We are as one when in a quiet moment that reaches into where I'm less absurd. I do not know how to be more potent. In touch, return to when we first it knew there was no one who meant more in the world than me to them. Now I to you, all true. Wrapped in arms we stood, stand curled, tight, secure. Same as the child naive, I'm in no scent. They loved your bones and flesh and hair and breath. Now float and spin, we are not limerent. This state is ours until its day of death. You are in my heart. I am in pulse deep. Forever swear our bond until dark sleep. Cool, this is a funny one, he says, in a way that guarantees stony face reaction. I wrote this for poetry slams are, to me, they're the venereal disease of poetry. Because, you know, you can't avoid, well, you almost certainly can't avoid it. But they leave you feeling unpleasant afterwards, and you can't have a bitterness and a resentment for the person who introduced it to you. But a slam is an idea, basically, you get people competing to impress their mates more than other people's mates. So to me, it's completely defeatist. But I wrote this one for a slam, and it didn't win. Just sharing that. This is called, inexplicably, The Dog's Bollocks. Bees are stripy, furry socialists that fly with the steps of a funky dance teacher. They have synchronized wings and compound eyes. The bee's knees are not their greatest feature. Evolved special combs to clean off their legs, and they travel for miles finding flowers. Bees lay, also eat many thousands of eggs, and are smart enough to avoid showers. They recognize faces, figure out plans, and easily grasp abstract concepts, manipulate nectar without having hands, and they figured out how to avoid sex. You can capture a bee with a spoonful of jam, but they never take part in a poetry slam. There's a I don't know what it is really. It's a place called the Pavilion in Broadstairs where you see bands and whatever. And every bank holiday they have an 80s disco, which is just the most fantastic meat market you've ever seen. People coming from villages all over. And there's a certain type of man and a certain type of woman, and they congregate for the great breeding. A medallion man is there. He's always there, shirt open to the waist. Something metal hanging around his neck, and he's combed both of them over. And he's there going, but they're not all stereotypes, some of them aren't even that. So this is a quick one about a night at the Pavilion. It's called the Last Chance Dance. Doof, doof, doof. Arms aloft to raise the roof, knots of girls and knots of boys skiff held before the hurl. Too hot to do nothing, too stiff to be bluffing, passion dry as tinder, girls imagining they are cinders. Night out over before it's begun, caught in selfies, proving fun, dancing like they just don't care and staring at his trousers. It's all analysed, you know, the applause. It tells us what people like or what they need help for. I hate them all, these young people with it all to live for. It's a young man's game, or a young woman, or neither, the same. It's an ism, but they see cause they're young and they don't give a stuff. Then again, we're not bothered to shout that much, because for us, well, it wasn't that tough. Had our moments, golden years, what? Ran around, had hijinks, what a laugh. Drank in pubs and never a thing, barring if wine, it wasn't on draft. Here's to youth and its bountiful promise. Kids go wild and on life just get pissed. We are watching and quietly remembering all those times that we know that we miss. Do you remember that incident where one of the Queen's ladies in waiting got in a bit of trouble because she asked somebody where they were from? Yeah. And it was a bit of a hoo-ha, right? Well, I wrote a poem at the time, and tropical poems are disastrous. I mean, they've got a shelf life, of nothing really. So to test that theory, I'm going to remind you of that incident, because this one made me laugh at the time, and I still think it has some currency. It's called Where Are You From? Where are you from? I mean, really? You can tell me if your answer's the right one. Where are you from? Well, your people. Say the word now, and I will be gone. Where are you from? Originally? I bet not from round here, but do you have a dark secret? Where are you from? Not the same place as me. Spit, spot, spat, girl, and my work here will be done. Where are you from? My questions I've hardly begun. Truth told, I'm a little bit scared of your difference, and I'm not the only one. The future means you won't be able to see people like me or Jamie, because AI, or as it was described to me by an elderly neighbour the other day, A1, will take over. He says, I'm really worried about A1. I'm going, what? A1? I think, like, was he driving on the North Road? He goes, no, it's going to take over. You know, our robot overlords. And you know what? It's probably going to happen. And we just get to watch, really. However, if nothing else, I've got a cheap gag out of it. Here we go. I asked ChatGPT a few months ago to write a poem in my style. And this is what it came up with. You can decide whether I am now obsolete. And after this, we're going to take a break. So get some more coffees in, and we'll come back with some more adult table. So this is written by a computer, right? This is what you've got to bear in mind. I've spoiled it all for you now, I could have told you that afterwards, but right now. Beneath the streets, the trains rumble on. A symphony of steel, an underground song. A rush of air, a flicker of light, a glimpse of life, a moment so bright. The tunnels echo with the cries of the past, memories long forgotten, a history vast. But as the train speeds on, we leave it behind, focused on the future, our hearts open and kind. We drop the ropes that bind us to our fears and let ourselves be free without any tears. We shed our old skin and embrace the new, for now is the time to start anew. We let go of the past and all that it held and embrace the present with stories yet to be told. We're alive in this moment, and that's all that matters. Right, yeah, the best one so far, said John. That's all we need to know. Well, I'm off to get my P45. You get yourself some coffee. We'll be back in 10 minutes or so. And thank you so much for your attention.
Cheers, Nick.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're back for part 2, or round 2, if you prefer the worldwide world of wrestling imagery. Not that it's really wrestling, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to give you a couple to bring you back into the land of caffeine, and then we're going to have some more of Jaime Grier's poems. Anybody fond of John Cooper Clarke? Yeah. Well, John Cooper Clarke and I have a glancing acquaintance. And I also know his neighbour, Martin Newell, who is arguably the most published living poet in the country. And they were talking the other day over dinner about what makes a good poet. And they agreed that good poets read poetry, not rocket science. But what they said next was very interesting, that really good poetry comes from deconstructing and parodying poetry you like. Because you have to both take it apart and understand it, but also recreate it. And I think, wow, that's an interesting idea. So with that in mind, here's a bit of a love song or a something with John Cooper Clarke in mind. Will you let me be your Johnny Clark? I want to be the dog that barks. Will be the voices in the dark watching box sets of Poldark. Will you let me be your school caretaker, your Saturday night defibrillator? With you I'll be the masticator. Could you be my blotting paper? Will you be forever home and call not text, it's called a phone, and promise to give the dog a bone? On your coffee I'll be the foam. Will you react favourably, put the baton in boulangerie, read my poems out in threes, foreplay horizontally? Will you love me like a horse? I've got the house brand special sauce. Eat kimchi till my voice is hoarse. Our loving will be coarse, of course. Will you be my final date? I am implying mortal mate. Don't delay, don't hesitate. Might not be bad, might not be great. Will you listen to me moan? On me she shat, that bird has flown. I want to pack my dripping phone in your sack of sushi rice. Anybody have a school pet? One you got to share around and take home? Yeah, remember that? A hamster or a rabbit or a guinea pig or a ocelot, you know? We had hamster. True story. It's called Whiteout. Some product knowledge is necessary for this. The class pet hamster got the sick nickname of Marvin. Not after the guitarist, but for his predecessor, found after the Easter holidays, starfished in a 5-litre club of Marvin medium PVA glue. No one confessed, but it was a boy called Colin Tough. He was rough on the hamster we loved. 15 people go, oh, one man goes, ladies and gentlemen, Colin Tough. After all these years, he's back.
Okay. Well, dodgy day, really. Dodgy day.
This is called The Joy of Six. It says in today's Times that the best time for sex is 07:30. At 7:30. If I'm feeling flirty, I'll have to find love in the Times, because at that time I'm alone with my phone, in bed. I'm cancelling my sub. Insensitive bastards. Right, one more and then some Jamie. Mentioned Martin Newell earlier on. He lives in my hometown, which is Colchester, which is in Essex. And I'm old enough to remember having an accent when I was younger, and not all of Essex is the same. You know, top end is pretty much Suffolk, and we talk a lot like that. It's very sort of Suffolk. So this is written with that accent in mind. It's called "Found Him Dead with an Acrobat." Twisted round her little finger, half a clown and part-time singer, high wire act, bit of a minger, ex-stunt double for Corporal Klinger. Found him dead with an acrobat. Dickler Fennac spread round flat, duvet bunch round plates of meat, fish for dinner, special treat. This is what the paper spat. Found him dead with an acrobat. Hoping for a decent send-off, garage flowers, hackling cough, skin on fire, heart of ice, try the rhubarb, really nice. Elephant's ears, Dactari's trunk, gluten-free, still got him drunk. No one knew but no one asked, thought that he'd been played for laughs. Tried his best, then failed at that. Ready reckoned, scored as twat. Didn't mean to hurt the cat, found him dead with an acrobat. Found him dead with an acrobat. Went in first but lost a bat. The dirty, rotten, stinking rat found him dead with an acrobat. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me enormous pleasure to welcome back to the swivelly chair Jaime Grier with what she assures me are my good ones.
Sorry, still eating crisps.
Take your time.
Okay, I'm going to do my other one that's about Herne Bay, or set in Herne Bay. More specifically, Charles Street. There might be things you recognise in there. But I grew up here, and yeah, this is all about Herne Bay. It must have been built on a ley line, the kind described by the man in the paper who said that the town was the epicentre of doom, who we laughed at and phoned in the middle of the night when we were spoiling for a fight in the cocaine arrogance of you. Something to sniff at one person's truth. Looking back, there may have been something in it, especially Charles Street. Now, at the very end, a car park once stood scruffy ducks, still legendary amongst the few wannabe gangster girlfriends left and musicians who had found a free place to play. We ran it into the ground when the landlord was away. We drank for free while he was exploring bestiality and gay sex in San Francisco. Such was the fantasy. The sound of the place was the crack of the unpaid for pool break, and the black shot straight at the great mirror on the very last night, all of our sexy reflections falling to the ground in crescendo. My dear friend's house back home to that street, the place where we would always meet. And the last time we did, I recoiled. As her pupils contracted under the sting of her pain, I ran, a ketamine run like a chasing dream for 45 minutes that should have been 5, and I cried out for help the whole time. Curio Corner, Junk Shop Jean, my go-to for black market backy. Only enough room to stand and pivot. Never enough time for the eyes to see every artefact artfully packed in. Mostly crap. House clearance, they call it, politely. All these objects and places that the dead have evacuated from become vacuous things when the soul is sucked away. Jean, with her smoke-coloured skin and messy mind and house full of empty, would never stand the test of time. Walking home from a party one night, not bed-ready, pill-heady, we broke into an abandoned care home where I used to work. Most places I've worked in this town end up burnt down. Is it Jonah, or am I just drawn to decay? Inside, all was black and grey, peeling, collapsing like a lung taking its final breath. There was evidence of some kind of residence, but undeterred, we made love on a bare and barely a mattress, falling asleep in the early morning and waking to the shock of 4 o'clock. I got up, ran home, bathed and changed, grabbed chicken from the chicken shop before my shift at the Vic. For days, everything tasted of ashes. Funny how these things stick. In the nostrils and the throat where the body holds memory. And as we grow older and gentrify, so do the places that made us. The places that aged us. Like an insurance job and self. The good bits we salvage, display on the shelf, and the rest we incinerate, or at least suppress. Still wandering the streets we'll never get away from. Okay. So this one's about a time I moved away from Herne Bay before coming back. I built a house once, a self-supporting structure in the middle of a pine forest. It was a life that offered solace, on a tiny farm in Essex, self-sustaining away from the mundane, just me, my partner and pets in a timber frame we named Serenity. We lived outside society, like we were trying to defy its gravity, carved out our own little cavity in civilization, and made a habitat from clay and stone. Happiness, away from humdrum. Peace in our poverty, home in, well, loneliness, to be honest. I gave everything I had. Family, friends and job to mix cob and lob turf from the earth to a living roof. It was living proof that escape is possible. With very little means and determination, you can get all the skills you need to make your own little haven, your own little heaven away from enslavement. Thank God for YouTube. Truth was, the plan was see-through. To anyone who knew me, my tendency to run away when life feels like too much to live up to. I spent a whole winter without power, hours devoured by darkness while David was at work. The shower was a bucket over a crate out the back. Boil a kettle on the gas and then splash and you're out. A 2-minute race to get washed. We were trying to live clean and at very little cost. Trouble was, there was a price. Night after night, alone in the caravan with citalopram dreams and a waning libido that had nowhere to go, even if it wanted to. I had a hunch that David didn't need to stay away quite that much. I killed it with medication. In my dedication to this crazy decision, there was no way I was crawling back to Kent with my tail between my legs, just yet. When spring came around, the house became just about livable. The whisperings of the winter forgivable and forgotten as the rotten old van was kicked down with vengeful abandon and we could move into the thing we'd been grafting a year and a half on. Except that I slept beneath hundreds of hidden arachnids, 1,000 straw legs and eyes hiding in a thatched bed, dropping down at any moment to run over my face and remind me of the web that I'd woven, the place that I'd chosen to call home, and my brokenness. It wasn't all bad though. I learned how to forage, rummaging the landscape like a jumble sale, a handshake with shrubbery and a bargain for the mushroom bucket. Abundance can be found in the most desolate of spaces. And I'm pretty handy with a sledgehammer, a skill that I've used a total of 0 times since, but still, I learned that I was strong, and I can smash apart rubble, no trouble, with the kind of strength it takes to mend a broken heart. When he dumped me on the heap like a part without utility, I fled home pretty damn quick, scooped up by the people that loved me. No, I told you so's, or there's no place for you here's. My fears unfounded. The town I turned my back on threw its arms right back around me. My cloudy mind evaporated and saturated in care that didn't need constructing, I realised. Self-supporting structures are weak, and running away only brings you back to a beginning, as long as you don't get lost in the forest. Thanks. Okay. I think now I'm going to do. Oh, let me just check. Okay. How many more do you reckon I can do, Nick?
How many more have you got?
Well, it depends, really.
Go on, tell us.
Like, definitely 2.
Right, stop. Definitely do 2 and then see what you're in the mood for.
All right then. Okay. So, I'm a social worker now, but I spent many years working in care homes before that.
Oh, lovely.
Dementia homes and things. So this is about some of my experiences working in a care home. Care homes can be cruel places, like waiting rooms for the faithless, the great medicated vacant, the unknown fates they're faced with. Most saved by the grace of already being part arranged, some in fear, very few okay with it. And that's just the start. That was trying to be a joke. That's how everybody tries to cope. Joking is coping. Coping is caring. Caring is sharing in a sterile nightmare dressed up as a dream of homecoming. Gilda was like a mirror for their misery, a vessel for their vitriol, mute and lame with the swollen pain of a past no one was party to. Everything passed her by, no matter how out of line the staff were. She seemed to remain unfazed. Her haze was a place where they could lose their pain. There are devils in their denial, monsters in their mechanisms. And it was the business of a mother and daughter, nepotism around every corner. I heard it as I passed by doors ajar. And when Hilda fell to the floor in a Ferrari, it felt like the apple didn't fall too far from the tree at all. There are always boxes to tick. There are always boxes to tick, and sometimes they actually make sense, like recording Peter's life story. Normally, he saw demons in his wardrobe, but reliving the seasons of his life was like a beacon to his darkened days, a half-dug grave less bearable than recalling all bereavement. Chased the demons out of the wardrobe, made them wearable. We hide demons at all stages. Staff are like fallen angels beneath the weight of years wasted on the aged for minimum wages, degenerating like brain cells in a futile race to be irreplaceable. Senior role still feels menial. The incontinence of impermanence, the loss of control, the long wait for it all to just fall away. Heaven is an eternal fag break, the slow burn of your ashes. Wrap me in plastic and PPE me to infinity. We're prepared for anything here. We're all the lost luggage on the conveyor belt of care. The overboiled cabbage left to go cold at the table of the young and better abled. The savage seeking triumph in a divided world. And there's interest vested in extending the childlike regression. It's the final confession no one wants to make. How many more pensioners, banks and care workers' backs can we break? Hopes and dreams are high temperature hallucinations, and we're taught to reorientate them. Wishes in the washer and ironed out in time for breakfast. It's a demented descent to the peg-fed and extracted catheter, last leg on the death decathlon. What are we running from? Cradle, grave, looks like one and the same. One day, we brought guitars in, Dan and me strumming chords in the corner, transforming a dormant hive to a swarm of former forms in chorus. A true buzz. People remembering purpose. We'll meet again, sung in unison, clients and workers. The cure of community. A sonic tonic dissolving sodden souls to a sip of vitality. When you've lived through 2 world wars, you know what counts. And that's camaraderie and togetherness. if the heaviness falls on top of me, or the cold of lone working a world that wants only to part us starts to turn my heart to stone, I'll be singing this and meaning it. Show me the way to go home. Thanks. I think I might just do one more. Yeah. Okay, so this one is, it's called Found. It's a poem about therapy. Process of therapy. Describe it, she said. And I sat and I stared, and no words came. She tried to reframe a colour, a feeling in the body. I just feel oddly together. The weather is no longer weighed down with memory. I feel real, like everything till now was an act, or like I've been trapped, but somewhere outside of myself, and now I'm on my way back. Colour, I can't. I mean, it's transparent. Apparently things are a lot clearer than they seem. It's like I've lived out my worst nightmares, and now I'm drifting into a dream, but my feet are on the ground. I used to fly to escape. I can see that now. It's like, wow. Is this how normal people feel? Is this the big reveal? Now that I've peeled away all those false beliefs that stole nearly 40 years like 40 thieves, now I'm saying, open sesame, seeds got sown. Now grown is what it feels like. Okay to be alone. We've been thinking about resources, moving out of remorse and staying on course in a crisis. Because of course if you can't, then the price is just more living, lifeless. Yeah. Been existing, just about getting by. She tells me I function impressively high given the storms that rage on inside, but that doesn't help me. Where in your body are you? Are you outside or in? I'm in bones, muscles, veins, organs and skin, brain, mind, and front, behind, without, within. I just am. I'm growing sick of the sound of my voice. But now I do bounce back so much better. Write a letter. Try to write it down. You may not be able to find the words right now, and I'm not asking you to, but I am tasking you to put pen to paper. So here it is. I feel solid. I feel sound. I feel found. Describe it, she said. I sat and I stared, but this time not out into space. This time I looked at her right in the eyes, and she looked right back at my face. And this time, I think she saw me. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you, Jamie. You know what? The thing about poetry, I find, some poems show us things we haven't seen. Others remind us of what we've forgotten. And sometimes they just take us out of ourselves for a moment, and they have the power to move. And that's what Jamie's poetry does for me. I'm going to talk about body shaming now. This is called My Body, My Choice. You can't eat that. Not one, but two women begged. You really are a lucky dog, a male friend said. Hash browns, scrambled eggs, sausage and baked beans, pop it in the microwave, it's the meal of dreams. The women saw it differently. It's not fit for the drain. You really mustn't eat that. I'd been all day breakfast shamed. Another poet, John Hegley, been around for years. He's done the impossible. He's made a living performing poetry. Saw him. We went to see John Hegley, a poet working steadily for decades, dropping readily pictures, poems, songs and prose. Misproduced as handily, he never sounded headily. At times his lines were said dully, with teachers, master of the form. 69 on 12 he came, with Keats by way of Marlowe all the same. We only had ourselves to shame for our ham sandwich deal. He had a special table for people who were able to call him friend, though he supposed people I know. And in the end they laughed and cried, why was I in the least surprised that on the spot it ended on the F in mandolin. that wrote these notes for, as and when they're ever written, which they won't be. Another true story. We don't get stuff in the mail anymore. You don't get letters, you don't get anything official. So when you do get a letter, it's quite remarkable. When you get a rigid cardboard envelope, it definitely catches your attention. I opened this envelope, and it contained a certificate for a level 2 qualification in autism that I'd forgotten studying. This is a poem about dementia. No, it's all segued together, isn't it? Just, but it's Saturday afternoon, it's hot. This is called Forget-Me-Nots. Of all the stuff I have forgotten, some details never escape me. The last to leave, the air I breathe, our senses held in common. The scent of you, of morning dew, and love in laundered cotton. What sun remains through fevered fog dances through my eyes. I am not gone, just cannot find the lyrics to my song. Please know that you can only guess at what I still retain, and if I rail against the world, it's never you I blame. For at the heart of all I am, I'm pretty much the same. Of late, there's been a spate of people passing off short phrases with pauses as poetry. It ain't. You can tell that he had once lived there. That's his hat on the ironing board, propped against the wall the way he leant, but slightly less substantially. There is the spot where she once used to take her morning selfie, not to document how she aged, but filtered to lie to herself that she had not. Here is where they came and went after a fashion made their own, yet they did not leave a trace of their intense romance, not even their hat. In the refrigerator of our love remains leftovers of desire chilling with the dishes best served cold. In the cool bag of our love remains consomme stains and mashed plantains. In the icebox of our love, midst cold cuts and crisper, is the absence of whispers. Right. I hope you've enjoyed our time together this afternoon. You know, it's quite difficult to convince people to go to poetry quite often because it's usually some kind of like, I've suffered, so now it's your turn. And as I hope you've realised, that's not the way I look at it. If any one of these has had just one line that you thought, I like that, then it gives me enormous pleasure. If you like it, you can follow me on social media, Facebook, Nick Goodall, YouTube channel as well. So you might better watch this again if I cut the good bits out. Write poetry, share it, and go and see other poets, because sometimes you might pick something up that makes your life a little bit richer for it. Art. People tell you what art is. The Royal Academy is the worst of all for these. They have a summer exhibition where they even number what real art is, so you know what real art is, and you can go and look at it and say, I've seen real art. Well, I'd give my goat. Without 1600 laid before me, what do I know of art? The famous, fated, loved and hated, overlooked and overrated, tucked away and understated. Without price list and dots of red, what do I know of art? I've even read the glossary, but where are the faces? Oh, there are the faces, or traces of faces, I guess. Without the cues of social mark, what do I know of art? Birkenstocks and sneakers, summer dress and linen suit, shoulder bag and mobile phone, straw hat, pork pie, baseball cap. Without a guard, I'll trust my heart. That's what I know of art. That stirs my soul, connects me to the art that made their art for me. I have 2 hands, but I need 3. One to hold you, one for us too, and one, if I remember, for me. Because I forget, ever since we met, I see only you. And if with me, us too. Deep in your thrall I overlook me, and when it is we, that is all I can see. But you wanted me more than I did. Because of the night, I can no longer be the man with two hands. Real life. The key, well, it broke in the van door. The spare was 200 miles away. Made a duplicate, which opened the door, but the ignition, it just wouldn't play. Duplicate acquired at great expense, the journey back home was begun. The front door key we had quite forgotten, oh bollocks and fucksticks and bum. It's funny how these reach some people, isn't it? Right, just a few more, and we can just hang out then and workshop. Pine nuts make my tongue go funny, without them I can't joke, but if I have a bowl of pesto, I'm quite a funny bloke.
Thank you.
At A&E they said to me, you'd best cut back on nuts, or you'll become hysterical, no ifs or mic or buts. I'm pined up to the eyeballs now. I roasted some for tea. I cannot help it, I'm addicted. That's not so funny, see? The lesson in my ode is this: watch out what you consume. You're absolutely fine as is, and who wants to send this up anyway? The only fruit that matters is the humble pomegranate. Not that many know it, then neither do they fan it. Even though they do not grow there, they're loved by folks with taste, but suffer far too high a ratio of waste. Just like Thanet. Oh, hang on, I'm thinking about butternut squash and Medway. I wrote one. I did this evening of erotica the other evening. I was like, oh, could you write some erotic poetry for us? No. We'll pay. Yeah. Don't know whether to read it or not, really.
Go on.
Yeah.
You've got Facebook on your phone. It's on Facebook. I haven't got it written down yet. No, seriously, it's the one I did. I'll read it, but it's on Facebook. If you fire up Facebook and you've got today's posting from me, I'll read it. I just can't remember it. Huh?
Let's have it.
It's the title of the poem.
You actually want me to get it?
Only if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
All right. Bust it down.
Of course we do.
Of course you do. Of course you do. I'm reading about pomegranates. Let me tell you about the person I hate most on the planet. The person I hate most on the planet is standing in the one small bag line with a shoulder bag and a rucksack and a lot of meal deal, and they're taking their time. They should be made to pay fines and surcharges and be pointed at, laughed at and mocked, and be made to sit on the outside of the plane if that child on the desk did their job. The person I hate next most on the planet is also within inches of me, and has a la-di-da priority boarding pass and a prime marché suitcase on wheels. I hope their case breaks, or they're just made to wait, or at least got to sit next to shoulder bag and rucksack man. Then the person I hate next most is the one with the frequent flyer luggage tag. They can stick their gold tiered diamond right up their emerald blue turquoise arse. Then the person I hate next the most is the child with an adorable smile on their face, sitting on a shitting purple trunkie. I should boot them down the aisle into space. Then there's anyone else I've not mentioned, the riffraff and peasants, hoi polloi. Don't they know I'm the real frequent flyer, not some chab or her latest toy boy? True, I've hardly paid anything for this flight, let alone the true cost of environmental impact. But until they announce an entitled class, I'll just grumble at the back. What do you mean I've been denied boarding? Long one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, this is called Marketing. Currently available on Facebook is one of the erotic. I've really built this up too much, haven't I? It's not in the least bit erotic. She really was the dimmest, The closest that she came to sexual adventure was riding on a plane to experience Aer Lingus. What? To get to the back, this conversation go, Aer Lingus?
No, I didn't hear you.
No, Aer Lingus, it's a pun. It's obviously meant to be a reference to, you know, Lufthansa. Do you want the prayer?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I had the privilege. Oh yeah, it's a good one. Which the odd one out? Adele, Elvis Presley, and me. We've all played residencies, but Elvis Presley is dead, although he came back to life last night, so we told them. Did you know that the last act to play 6 consecutive gigs in Thanet was the Beatles 60 years ago? Well, 2 weeks ago I played 7 days on the trot, and I met an awful lot of people who used to be in a band once, and there's thousands of them. You know, they were the bass player in Procol Harum's support act in 1963 for 2 days, and that's it. They traded on it ever since. And some of them go, yeah, we had a big hit, but I don't like it. It's really shit, you know, because it's not the high art I imagined. And there's a lesson in that for anybody called creative. Be really careful what you put out, because the public will choose what they like, and that will stick. So if you think you're going to be embarrassed by the next generation's Birdie song, don't write it, or perform it, or embrace it, and just know that your entire life you will be the Birdie dance. I have one of these. I wrote this casually, and it's the most requested thing I do, so I'm going to revel in it, and I'm going to share it with you now. It's something you know the words to, you know the rhythm of it, but you can't do it. Because it's art. I can't believe you're still quiet now. I'm going to act this one. This is called the St Pancras Prayer, the new Thanet Parkway version. And I have to change into the Bishop of Broadstairs in order to do it. There we go. Let us begin with thoughts for Ashford, and for Canterbury West, and for stations on the Dover branch, and all the stops in between, especially plucky little Sturry. From Stratford International to travel through Herne Bay, high speed via Faversham be thy name. Thy Rainham come, Strood will be done, in Chatham as it is in Rochester. Give us this day our Sittingbourne, and forgive us our Westgate, as we forgive those who Birchington on sea against us. And lead us not into Ebbsfleet, but deliver us from Margate. For thine is the Bubble, the Chestfield and Swalcliffe and Gillingham. For Ramsgate, Dumpton and Broadstairs, Gravesend. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure being here. Good luck up, Jamie. What's the best way to find you, Jamie?
Instagram, Jaime Grier Poet.
Instagram. Ask a 12-year-old what that is. Jaime Grier Poet, and
Thank you.
do come and see Jamie again anywhere you want. And yeah, listen. Thanks ever so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.